two very important preps. Your feet. Hello everybody and welcome to SuttonsDaze. If you're new here, my name is Lisa and we are all about pantry preparedness. Part of our overall pantry is our first aid. As you can see, I've got Rubbermaid totes here. I have another one on top of the bunk, but first aid is very, very important. And it seems like the older we get, the more important it becomes. Today, I'm going to focus on your feet because they get you from point A to point B. And when they get injured, it can be uncomfortable. It can render you motionless, and it can actually significantly impact your health. So a couple of weeks ago, my wonderful husband injured his foot, and he did it pretty bad, okay? So Phil has, as a backstory, significant neuropathy in his feet. He cannot feel his feet. Now, if I stomped on him, yeah, he'd feel something, but not anywhere near what you or I do. And my perfect example of this is betadine. Betadine. Get some betadine, okay? I injured my finger, which is why I was wearing gloves and stuff recently. I put betadine on that and was like, whoa, that's not good. I sprayed the betadine on an injury on Phil's foot that is rather large and rather significant, and he didn't so much as blink. He has no feeling in his feet. So he was outside walking around in the wrong shoes, and the inside of the shoes got wet and his foot rubbed, and he literally blistered his entire big toe and down into the palm of his foot, and it took away literally every layer of skin that there was. The things that I have learned that this is way above my pay grade, but I've also gotten very proficient at wound care being married to Phil. When he first showed it to me, because he checks his feet twice a day, every day, and it wasn't there in the morning, and it was there bad at night. And so I had to debride part of the skin because it was literally, right? But I knew that this was above my pay grade, and he wasn't willing to go to the emergency room for it. It was on a Saturday night, and he said, well, wait and go on Monday. And I'm like, this is not good. Okay, I don't actually control the universe. I just like to think I do. I did what I thought was best, and I got it cleaned, and I put antibiotic ointment on it pretty liberally, okay? And I bandaged it up. The next day, well, we got through Sunday, and I checked it again, and okay, fine, rebandaged it, did the same thing, liberally put on the ointment. And what the ointment does is it keeps it wet. Now, in my mind, I needed it to stay wet so that it could go to the doctor. When we got to the doctor's like, whoa! Now, when your doctor does that, something's wrong, okay? And he said, okay, first we have to dry this out. It's too wet. And I said, okay, I did that on purpose because I needed you guys to tell me what to do. And because I didn't think I should be debriding it. And he goes, no, definitely, you should not have been debriding it. I'm like, okay, then as far as I'm concerned, I did okay. But it needed to be dried out sooner than later. I have learned a whole bunch of things along the way with this. I am getting very proficient at wound care. While I am not a nurse, I am not giving you medical advice. I am telling you to look into this depending on what you have to do with. If Phil does not take care of his foot the way that his doctors tell him to, and I mimic, then there's a very strong potential that Phil could lose his foot over this. Know your feet. Now, depending on who you are and your medical circumstances, that can vary. You could be me, who is barefoot all the time. I don't quite have my summer feet yet, I call them, where it's kind of like the Flintstones. I could walk across anything. And I'm always on my feet. My feet are just these things that are there. Phil has very sensitive feet, is never barefoot, and injures them remarkably easy. And he's diabetic. So if you get wounds and you're diabetic, it takes longer for you to heal. So to bring you guys along on the fun that is SuttonsDaze, I've got some tips for you on preparing for emergency foot care, okay? These are things that you might want to give some thought to having on hand in case of an emergency. And a lot of these will be applicable for different wounds. I'm kind of focusing strongly on the feet today because that's what I'm living. Number one is to keep a first aid kit in your home and preferably at least a small one in your car. You never know when an accident is going to happen. It should have the bare necessities in there, if it's in your car, to get you from where you're at to where you need to be with all the rest of your equipment or the doctors. I cannot tell you how important it is to know your medical history. My husband is very, very good at this. I am very bad at this. He actually remembers more of what I have gone through than I do, and he can give you dates for most of it. I don't know, somewhere in the background, I remember having anesthesia. Be aware of your risk factors for foot care. There's many different risk factors, okay? But obesity, diabetes, smoking even affects your feet. Be aware of your medical conditions and how it impacts your feet. They're two very important pieces of your body. For a lot of us, we're not 16 anymore. I know it's hard to believe some days, right? But we're not. And so well-fitting, comfortable footwear is very, very important. I don't give two peas for fashion. Don't care, in case you couldn't tell. I don't care. But comfort, I'm all about it. Now, there was a day when it was nothing for me to wear 3-inch heels. It was normal. Today, it's never going to happen. Today, I am all about comfort with my feet. My feet are what earned me a living for many years, and now they just get me from A to B and make it so that I can do different things. Feet are important. Wear well-fitting, comfortable shoes. You want to inspect your feet regularly. Now, like my husband, every morning, every night, he checks his feet because he can't feel them. I'll check your feet every single day. Look for cuts, abrasions, blisters, nail breakage. I mean, anything like that, because it all adds up to different indicators for what is happening with the health of your feet. Inspect your feet every single day. First and foremost, always see a doctor if you're not getting any improvement from your home treatment. I have a list. So I have a list, some specific items that you may want to include in your foot care kit. Bandages, various sizes, all sizes. Get all the sizes. Antibiotic ointment. It really does come in handy. And for me, I still stand by my decision to use it in this instance. Antibiotic ointment, and then learn when you should and when you shouldn't, and when you should tell your husband that you're going to the ER instead of letting him tell you no. Pain relievers, yes. I mean, some kind of pain reliever, whether it's ibuprofen or acetaminophen or good old-fashioned aspirin, some kind of pain reliever. Antiseptic wipes. They're very, very helpful, especially if you're dealing with some kind of foot wound, because if you're like me and you're running around barefoot all the time, right? I cut myself on something, I need to get that cleaned up right away. An antiseptic wipe is remarkably helpful. You want to make sure that it's clean because dirt is where the germs are, my friends. When it comes to your feet, moleskin, yeah, hello, moleskin. Go get some moleskin. Don't go skin a mole. Go get some moleskin. Benadryl. I think Benadryl because it's an antihistamine, so it automatically just makes the world a better place, you know, and then it will also make you a little bit drowsy most of the time, so it will also keep you from moving around so much on your injured foot. Tweezers, sterile gauze, seriously, sterile gauze. You can't have too much of this. Now, the price has increased astronomically over the course of the last couple of years. This stuff is really expensive now. But sterile gauze is really important when you're dealing with wounds. And so definitely do what you can. You know, if you can only get a little bit at a time, Dollar Tree, you know, if you can afford a little bit more, check out the link that I'm providing at the end of this video, because I have an entire storefront set up for this kind of stuff because this is my life. Scissors. Don't run with them. Don't run with the scissors. Okay. But you want a really good pair of scissors. If you go to the doctor and they treat you and he says, go ahead and take these because they're going to make us throw them out anyway, because they get these kits. It is so wasteful. Anyway, they get these kits with tweezers and scissors and gauze and all this stuff. And most of the time they have to throw it out once it's been opened for one thing. So if they say take it, take it. Scissors. You want a dedicated pair of good, sharp scissors in your first aid kit. In your first aid kits. You want multiple pairs of these. Tape. Now there's two kinds of tape. There's a paper tape. Highly, highly recommend the paper tape. The paper tape does not rip your skin off. It's actually pretty easy to work with. Doesn't even require scissors. I prefer paper tape when I'm dealing with something like I'm dealing with now. If you're dealing with something where it's in an area that is going to get a lot of action, okay, then you might want to go with the other kind of tape that they have. It's more like a rubber substance, but it holds moisture in. And what we're dealing with here, I can't hold moisture in. Be aware of what kind of wound you have. Talk to your doctor. Find out what kind of tape you should be using. But for your first aid kit, it's good to have both kinds. You want to make sure to get paper tape and then regular medical tape. Ice packs in your freezer are a great thing. There are some instances where you're supposed to keep off your feet and you're supposed to keep it elevated. An elevation pillow helps a lot. Anything helps a lot. Just get that foot elevated and stay off it like your doctor and your wife tell you to. When the doctors pull out something that I have never seen before, because I haven't encountered it yet, I go, ooh, and I kind of forget about Phil for 30 seconds. I say, what is the name of that? And literally, as they are working on my husband, I am typing it into Amazon to make sure that I get it. And one of the things that I did this instance is tubular elastic retainer net. Say that 5 times real fast, okay? So it looks like, I'm going to show you guys. Kind of looks like a bathrobe tie, right? Okay, but it stretches out. So I cut off a hunk of this, I tie a knot in one end, and then I put it over his foot, over the bandage that I've taped on. So it's just an extra layer of protection, kind of like wearing a sock, okay? But it gets him from point A to point B. Like I said, you know, we got to keep it dry. No sweating allowed. I'm also very grateful that I recently replaced all the slippers that were chewed up by the dog. And so he can't get into regular shoes right now. So an extra pair of slippers in with your medical kit is a beautiful thing. Non-adherent pads, by the bulk, my friend, by the bulk. Because these can be used for all of your wound care. They're non-adherent. They're not going to stick to the wound. I mentioned it briefly, but it's really important to have a comfortable pair of shoes or slippers that are easy to get your feet into without any trouble, no tying shoes or anything like that, in case of an injury. Have them with your kit. They're life-saving because they can get you from point A to point B without having to walk on the tube sock thing. Can you think of anything else that should be in this kit? Throw it in the comments section down below. I have a link down below for my first aid kit. Definitely check it out. See if there's anything in there that you want to add to your first aid kit. And check out that video right there. See what kind of other first aid stuff we might be talking about. Until next time, everybody, be safe.